Well, I wanted to do this recording today and I'm holding my baby because my wife is filming me and the baby was crying, I think maybe because he wants to have some action in front of the camera and be in this side. So here we go, we're going to give it a go. It's just debut on YouTube. But I wanted to do this video because I made up a new word, and I didn't just wake up one day and decide that we needed a new word in the English language. I came with this because I think that it will help people to understand more about why they come here and what really our chief aim is when we are exercising or when we're eating healthy, when we're doing the stuff that we think that we should be doing in order to get healthy. But I've come up with this word, and it's right behind me. Ta-da, Reswellience. And that's a silly word, but let me explain. A few months ago, I was curious as to what the heck wellness actually meant. We hear of wellness all the time. I say wellness, acupuncturists will say wellness, massage therapists will say wellness, Kaiser Permanente will say wellness. Their catchphrase now is thrive. There are wellness pillows, supposedly. And if all of us are doing wellness, it just seems like that's a pretty vague thing. It's not very descriptive. And I think the message of not only what they do, but especially what I do, gets diluted in that a little bit. So my wife was on the computer and I needed to look up what wellness was. And to my amazement, I had to use an old dictionary, and wellness wasn't even a word. Now this dictionary was pretty old. We used it for checking Scrabble words, spell checker back in the 1980s. And this dictionary was copyrighted in 1971, and wellness was not even a word at the time. There's 3 times as many words right now in the English language, and if all of us are doing wellness, well, I think it's already time for a new word. Now, most people think that wellness means something along the lines of this. Make sure you take your calcium so that you're not osteoporotic. Make sure that you exercise so you're not overweight, you don't have a cardiovascular event. Okay? But what I'll often ask people is, what happens if you walk into a dimly lit room? And sometimes people will say, well, you squint your eyes, or you'd wait for your eyes to adjust. Well, the answer that I'm looking for there is you'd look for the light, you turn on the light. Because, of course, you know that as you add light, you automatically get rid of the darkness. That's a more resourceful way of thinking about getting rid of the darkness. It's just like, gee, if I could decrease my stress, or if I can eliminate all the stress from my life, then my life would be so much better. Well, that's not a good way of thinking, because you know that as long as you're alive and you're living on this planet, I don't know about you, but for me, I know that there's always going to be stress, and that's just a part of life. And so the more kind of, I guess, accurate way to think about that is how can I create peace to offset that as much as possible. So the wellness part of Reswellience is making sure that we're going in this direction. If we can see, I have an arrowhead going all the way down there. That represents what we don't want. And then over here to the right with our arrow going in this direction, what we do want. Okay? But we don't want to be blind either to the fact that there are bad guys out there. There are destructive external stressors constantly causing you to adapt. If you don't adapt, if you're not resilient, which is the res part and the ience, if you're not resilient, or if you don't have that resilience, if you're not resistant to those things, you're going to lose ground. Even though you might be thinking positive and doing a lot of good things for yourself, the reality is there's constant destructive processes going on all the time, and we can't avoid it. Hippocrates, the father of modern medicine, he said that all living systems are either growing or dying. But we want to make sure that when you are here, we are freeing up the power, that force that controls all of your body's regulation, healing, and adaptive forces, so that at least that part is going in the correct direction, and overall that tug of war is going in this direction, and this side as much as possible. Now another thing is the dictionary would define health as almost like it's a state to arrive at. In other words, Dorland's Medical Dictionary and Webster's Dictionary define health as basically normal function or 100% function of all parts of the body, mentally, physically, socially, not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. But, nobody has ever had a perfect life in that regard. And so aiming for that ideal, even though it's a good thing, it's very difficult for the mind. The mind is very powerful, but you can only really think about one thing at a time. And to try to get to that sort of zen or optimal state can be kind of self-defeating. It's like trying to catch that water when you're driving on the 8 freeway out to El Centro. You see the water on the freeway. You get up there, and where's the water? Well, there is no water. It was just a mirage. It was just a carrot, a fictitious carrot that you were chasing. So we want to think about this in a resourceful kind of a way, and that's why I came up with this word that represents your resistance to the bad things, to the physical, chemical, mental, emotional stressors, especially the subluxation, which causes us to break down more than build up, and then also the wellness, or the going in this direction. And here we have our W, the guy holding the atlas, or the holding the world on his shoulder. But of course you, that is your brain, that's your head. If your head's not on straight, you're going to compensate, and that's going to create more problems downward. And when you come in for your appointments back to room number 1 and room 2, it'd be a really, really good thing. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to think, where do you fit on this whole entire line spectrum here, from -10 to +10? Where is your health at right this second when you go back to rooms number 1 and 2? But when you leave there, take peace in knowing, whether you're holding your adjustment or whether you need to be adjusted, that you are at least going in the right direction, the good direction. I always talk about John Wooden, who is the former UCLA basketball coach. And he was like the best college basketball coach of all time. And he said that success is the peace of mind that comes from knowing that you have done your best to become the best that you are capable of becoming. And in a health sense, or I guess where Reswellience fits into that, is you acting on what you know that you need to be doing to be as healthy as you possibly can. And don't compare yourself to others. Forget about anything that you've done in the past. You can't do anything about the past. The past is gone. But you can decide that, hey, right now I'm going to go in this direction. I'm going to do what I can to be going in this direction. And we're not just, talking about some kind of abstract thing. The truth is that we're all unique. We all have our own individual purposes. And, you live your life through your central nerve system. So that's a very powerful thing, to just flip the switch and get going in that direction. So thank you for your time, and we'll see you in your next appointment. Want to say anything? I'm tired. Okay, he's tired. We got to go now. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Okay.